Hi, welcome to another Unitrends training session. This training session is for the install onboarding. So our next section is First Login Setup Wizard. In this section, we're going to take a look at what it's like after you get the IP address set up on a physical appliance or a virtual appliance and you go to the IP address for the first time. We're going to look at what has to be set up. So the following task must be completed prior to scheduling your installation date. In the Setup Wizard, it's going to help you set the time zone, and you can point to a time server internally if you have one. The Setup Wizard's also going to help you enable SMTP email notifications. If you need to get out those email reports for failures and job schedules and summaries, you want those to go out right away, you want to make sure you enable that through the Wizard. Through the Wizard, you can also change the web user interface admin password. That's the root password that's by default used. You can change that right by the default right through the Setup Wizard. Once we get in there, we're going to show you the dashboard really quickly, just give you a real quick glance at the overview. And you also want to make sure you update the appliance software version before your installation date. You want to get familiar with your appliance and make sure you at least get the software updated, get the newest version running. Now we've got our appliance has an address. We've gone through the console view. We've put the address on it so we can launch our browser. And here I'm using Google Chrome. I've got a bookmark for my address just so you guys didn't have to watch me type this out. But remember, whatever address you assigned it to, if it's 192.168.1. something, or if it's 10. something, whatever address you gave your appliance, that's the address that you're going to type into the web browser. First time you go to it, you may have to go to the advanced security tab of it. You may have to proceed. It's a local address on your local network. There is just no certificate for this appliance yet. Here's the end user license agreement. You can read all this if you need to, but we're just going to go ahead and say accept. Now, the very first time you go to this address and you accept that license agreement, it starts to take you through this three-part setup wizard. You can enter the current time and date today, make sure that's correct, or you can use your own internal or external time pool, however you want to set this up. Most of the time you have some sort of VMware time server within your vCenter, within your domain. You might want to point to your own internal time server. All right, here we're just going to make sure the date and time zone is correct. Go ahead and hit next. Now it's on to the host name and password section. Here's where we can go ahead and take the host name, and you may want to name this thing your asset. And you can put your asset tag right in the name of this host name. That way when you tie to our support, we know which appliance this is. So if you have an 814-100-0056, you can put that right in the name. You can even put the company name maybe in the beginning of this if you need to be a little bit more compliant with your network. Once again, we also have our domain in here, so you want to make sure you populate that domain in the same way you did through the console view. Now this root password right here is the web UI, the web user interface security password. It's the default user that's going to log in for us once we create this password. You can set that password to whatever you want security-wise internally. Share that with your risk management, your chief financial officer, however you safeguard those administrative level super user passwords to your systems. Go ahead and hit the next button here. Now we can also enable email reporting. If you have an open relay server, you can connect to that SMTP server. Okay, I'm going to be using Gmail servers. Mine does require authentication, so I'm going to put in my account at least and my password. I can also add my recipients at this time as well too. So if I know I want to make sure I get messages off of this appliance for systems, jobs, and failures, I can set up multiple recipients at this time as well too. Very easy to go through that initial setup wizard into the appliance to get it up and running so you can get to the dashboard. All right, now the first time you log in, once again, there is a tour that you can take to kind of get you oriented to the dashboard as well too, but basically it tells you here to start adding your assets to protect those. That's our next section we're going to take a look at, by the way, is asset management. But in this tour, it tells you up here that you got a global menu at the top. That's where we're going to update the appliance software, is right here in this config wheel. Right, but you can also got your user settings, some help options, and your alerts. Very important to make sure you check your alerts every time you log in as well too. There's all the major dashboard tiles here in the middle. They do a lot of different things, from the backup summary to storage. You got the connection to the community, your hot targets, your active jobs as well too. So you can go through this wizard and kind of get used to the dashboard as you start to use it. You also have the Protect tab and the main menu over here as well. Any of the main stages, you'll have a toolbar at the top as well, so you want to pay attention to those. You got your inventory, so as you start to add assets, we'll see that develop. And you got your status table. What do the backups look like and the backup copies for the last 7 days? So pretty easy dashboard to get around in. You can filter at the bottom. If you start getting a lot of assets in here, you can filter by asset name as well. And then you've also got your recover page. So you're starting to go down through the menu here. Same kind of concept. Once again, main stage. You've got your recovery backup catalog. You'll start to see your backup show up in here as well too. You've got your backup options at the top. Actually, your recovery options. All right. So you'll see those highlighted differently depending on what types of backups you have highlighted in your recovery catalog, your backup catalog. You've got file level recovery options. You've got instant recovery options as well. Then you've got your jobs page. Right? The jobs page is active jobs, where you edit and manage your jobs. We'll show you that in a little bit in a future module here for install onboarding as well too. Right? You got your job details down at the bottom, active jobs. Once again, there's recent jobs too. You got your reports. You'll learn a lot about reports as you start to use the system, from the backup section of the reports all the way through the recovery and alerts report and storage reports. There's also the config tab, probably the most important one. You can see here we're running 9.0-9. We do need to upgrade right away. This is our appliance. This is our host name, but you can see your asset tag from inside of the edit screen once we get in there. You've got your appliance details down at the bottom as far as storage and backup copies, whether they're hot or cold, and managing the networks as well. And you've got your protected asset tab at the top. This is what we're going to show you in the next module, is how you start to add and manage connections to VMware and agent-based servers, physical servers, database applications. Pretty easy tour to go through, pretty easy user interface to get along in as well. Once again, at the top, one of the things that you must do before you schedule your installation date is check for any updates that may be available for this appliance. So you do want to come out here and make sure you check for any available updates. If there are any available updates, make sure you apply those to the appliance successfully. Once you see the updates, you can view those updates if you really want to pull up the release notes on the current update release and what it contains. So you can view those. Now back in our dashboard, then we want to go ahead and apply the update. Once again, while the appliance is updating, don't reboot it. Don't disconnect power or disconnect the network from this appliance while it's running its updates. Should only take a few minutes. All right, so here we can see the updates that were installed. You can see a completed list of the installation packages that were updated in the Unitrends software. When you click out of this, you can come back to your appliance, and once again, you'll go to the Configure tab. And the easiest way to verify what version of your software that you're running is under this Configure tab. You'll see your appliances. Well, let me go ahead and log out and back in. Okay, I'll go to Configure. You can see new updates here, new icons in this update, much cleaner interface as well too. I can see now my appliance here is now running 9.0-13 as well. One last thing I do want to show you in this is, after some updates, you may want to reboot the appliance. You may see an alert up here that tells you to reboot the appliance. If you do want to do that, or you need to do that, right down here under the edit settings of the appliance, as long as you're logged into that appliance locally through the IP address of that appliance, you go to the edit settings of that same appliance. You can then shut down and restart this appliance as well too. So if you want to go ahead and restart this appliance, you can shut it down or restart it as long as you know the root OS password. This is not the root password for the web UI. This is the root password for the OS. So are you sure you want to restart this? Yes. Now the appliance is shutting down. Now once it reboots, you will want to close your console connections out. Make sure you're not connected to those appliances. You'll want to watch it in its console view, and you can see it coming up and rebooting. Once it's back up, then you can go back into the interface, start to configure the next section, managing your assets. And that brings us to an important point. Now that you've finished the required sessions, the final 3 sessions, managing protected assets, the basics of backups, and ongoing administration, they're additional sessions that, although they're not required, are extremely informative and very well worth the time spent to watch these additional sessions. They'll give you a great insight as to what the next steps are that you're going to go through with the installer, how to better prepare and organize, and what's going to happen when you set up the backup jobs, and how to maintain the appliance on a daily and weekly basis, what it's like to manage the appliance. I hope you enjoy. And welcome to Unitrends.